This video will provide an introduction to the Audiology and Speech-Language Pathology Interstate Compact and talk a little bit about what it might mean for South Dakota. First, let's talk about what an interstate compact is. Interstate compacts address a variety of issues, and essentially they are agreements between states that are developed by those states. So language is developed and then it is introduced into legislatures, and when it is passed exactly identically in all of those participating states, then a commission is formed and rules are written for the compact. So it's an agreement between states based on laws that are passed, or a law that is passed in multiple states. There are lots of different types of compacts. One of those types is occupational licensing. An occupational licensure compact is an agreement between states to cooperate in licensing members of a profession. We pass interstate licensure compacts for occupations to help preserve state control of that occupation and to help kind of preempt or prevent federal intervention into the profession. The state processes in each state for licensing professionals and regulating that profession remain in place, and states are not required to open up their licensure acts to pass and enact an occupational licensure compact. And then within each state, individual licensees voluntarily participate or choose not to participate in the compact. Each state has commissioners that are appointed to an interstate compact commission, and those people craft the rules and bylaws for the compact. We have occupational licensing compacts because licensing boards nationally are facing anti-regulatory sentiments. So government entities are taking a look at licensing requirements and deciding to get rid of requirements that are seen as overly prohibitive to workers. In 2015, the Obama White House issued a report on occupational licensing indicating that licensure requirements for occupations cause higher costs for consumers and prevent skilled workers from entering jobs that they really could do. They also found that licensed workers who relocate are 24% less likely than unlicensed workers to move across state lines because of the difficulty they face with different licensure requirements in different states. So the report called for organizations to work with states to increase license portability across states, and that means that we need to kind of coordinate and make sure that our regulations are similar. And it also asked that we try to reduce our overly burdensome licensing restrictions so that not only can people work more easily across state lines, but licensing then can also be streamlined for individuals in the military and for veterans. These are the different occupational licensure compacts that exist, and we can see that the darker states on the map have passed more interstate compacts for licensing. South Dakota has 2. Those are for nursing and medicine, and there is compact language that is being introduced in the legislature for physical therapy. Specific to our professions, the Audiology and Speech-Language Pathology Interstate Compact has been developed and is being introduced into state licensures for the first time in 2020. The states that have indicated they will be introducing the compact language are listed here, and we can see that 2 of those, Nebraska and Wyoming, are neighboring states to South Dakota. The compact will become active when 10 states pass the compact language. So once it's passed and it's enacted and people start applying to the compact, states can charge practitioners a privilege to practice fee. So I have my home license in the member state where I live, and then if I decide I need or want to work in another state, I apply to the compact for a privilege to practice. I pay a fee, part of which will go to the interstate compact, and then part of it will also go to the state where I want the privilege to practice. And again, the states individually set their own privilege to practice fee. A privilege to practice will allow an individual to provide in-person services and or telepractice services. And it'll establish a database so that states can cooperate together to track and communicate investigations and adverse actions or disciplinary actions against licensees between states, and that adds a layer of consumer protection. So as an individual practitioner, if I want to participate in a compact, I need to be licensed in my own state, and that license needs to be unencumbered. I can't have an investigation going against me or have some sort of disciplinary action. But with my good standing license in my home state, then I can apply to the interstate compact for a privilege to practice in a specific member state. I pay a fee to the compact where I'm going to, and the state where I'm going to obtain the privilege to practice, and then I need to maintain my license in my home state. I still have to pay that fee, get my CEUs, and renew it on time. And then I need to abide by all of the laws and rules in all of the states where I have a privilege to practice. The good thing for a practitioner about participating in an interstate compact is that if I need to hold multiple licenses, I don't have to submit a full application and a separate background check and college transcripts to each state. I just do that in my one home state, maintain that license, and then apply for my privilege to practice in other member states. So everything costs money, and the question then is, how do we fund this interstate compact? Well, once it is passed in 10 states and the commissioners write the rules, they will establish a state fee to participate. So each state that participates in the interstate compact would pay a fee to the interstate compact, and states pay those fees through licensing revenue. So that includes fees that the state charges for privilege to practice through the interstate compact. Participating practitioners, of course, pay a fee, and part of that goes directly to the interstate compact. And then there's typically support, financial support from outside organizations for interstate compact commissions, the American Speech Language Hearing Association, the American Academy of Audiologists, and the National Council of State Boards of Examiners of Speech Language Pathology and Audiology have all written letters of support for the ASLP-IC, and may be organizations who would choose to financially support the Interstate Compact Commission. So specific to South Dakota, we currently have 85 licensed audiologists and 545 licensed speech-language pathologists. Individuals who participate in the compact must meet specific educational requirements. So all of our audiologists who are licensed in South Dakota would be eligible to participate in the compact. And then we have 462 speech-language pathologists who have a full or an unlimited SLP license. And so those individuals who have a master's degree in speech-language pathology would be eligible to participate in the compact. Interstate compacts for audiology and speech-language pathologists at this time do not apply to assistants. So if we look at Bureau of Labor statistics, we have a relatively small number of audiologists in our state, and so we don't have a projected long-term employment number for them. But the Bureau of Labor statistics does report a projected 12.3% increase in employment for speech-language pathologists in South Dakota in a 10-year period from 2016 to 2026. And we know that our programs in South Dakota for training graduate an average of 5 audiology and 28 SLP graduate students each year. We also know that speech-language pathologist salaries are anywhere from about less or just under $6,000 to $21,000 less than our surrounding states. So we're at kind of a disadvantage with our other states when we're looking at recruiting individuals to South Dakota because of the financial differences there. We also know in South Dakota that we have some very large rural areas that have difficulty recruiting and retaining qualified providers. And, essentially, An interstate compact just makes it easier for people to come to South Dakota and work in our profession, and we know that we need providers. So how would this interstate compact affect South Dakota? Well, like I just said, it will make it easier for audiologists and speech pathologists to work in South Dakota, which will increase access to services for the consumers of audiology and speech-language pathology services. That would include military personnel and their spouses coming to South Dakota if they're stationed here and being able to obtain that license more easily and practice sooner. We could see more specialist services as individuals who maybe specialize in one particular niche of audiology and speech-language pathology are better able to build a practice in that specialty area and then maybe provide those services across state lines via telepractice. And then it would also make it easier for telepractitioners to serve in underserved and unserved areas of South Dakota. Again, those practitioners will need to abide by the same state practice regulations that our in-state speech pathologists and audiologists abide by. It does make it easier, too, for our South Dakota licensed professionals to work in other member states, and that's especially important for those people who are on the border of our state and another state, and their practice might entail them traveling and providing services in both states. Finally, if we would choose to adopt the compact early, it would allow South Dakota to have input into the writing of the rules of the compact, including how much each member state needs to pay.